In 2009, the most famous street in America started to die. Casinos were losing millions every single day. Giant buildings stood half-finished, just rusting metal in the hot desert. The biggest casino companies on Earth were days away from going broke. And then, it happened again. In March 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic forced every single casino on this street to go dark. Every light turned off. Every slot machine went silent. The street that welcomed 42 million visitors a year had none. 2 crashes. 2 moments where the world's richest street almost disappeared forever. But somehow, against every prediction, it came back, stronger than before. That street is the Las Vegas Strip. The 4.2-mile stretch of road that makes more money per foot than anywhere on Earth. And it survived total collapse. Not once, but twice. How? What did this street figure out that banks, tech giants, and entire countries could not? The answer is something most people would never guess, and it changes everything you think you know about Las Vegas. Stay till the end, because this story has a secret hiding in plain sight. So before the crash, there was a boom, and not a small one. The biggest boom the Las Vegas Strip had ever seen. In the early 2000s, construction cranes filled the skyline like a mechanical forest. Every casino was expanding. Every investor was throwing money in, and the numbers were almost impossible to believe. City Center, a single MGM project, cost $9.2 billion. It became the largest privately financed construction project in American history. The Cosmopolitan cost $3.9 billion. Wynn Encore cost $2.3 billion. The Palazzo cost $1.9 billion. Add in dozens of condo towers and smaller projects, and the total crossed $50 billion. But here is what nobody was paying attention to. None of this was built with casino profits. Every single dollar was borrowed. Banks were lending to almost anyone for almost anything. Credit was cheap and loans were easy. And everyone on the Strip believed the party would never end. Think of it like this. Imagine borrowing money to rebuild your entire house because the bank said yes and life looked good. Now imagine losing your job right after construction starts. Bills are coming, work is half finished, and the money to pay for it is completely gone. That is what was coming for the Strip, except the bill was $50 billion. And the most dangerous part? Every dollar was borrowed against future earnings that nobody had made yet. When those earnings disappeared, the debt did not. The companies that borrowed the most would be the first ones to fall. Then in September 2008, Lehman Brothers collapsed, and the credit markets that funded every tower on the Strip froze overnight. The boom was officially over, and what came next would bring the richest street on Earth to its knees. So Lehman Brothers collapsed in September 2008, and the Las Vegas Strip felt it immediately. Credit markets froze across the world. Gambling revenue dropped 25% almost overnight. People with falling home values and rising bills stopped booking Vegas vacations. Hotel rooms sat empty. Slot machines had no one sitting in front of them. And those massive construction projects that were supposed to change the Strip, they just stopped. Cranes stood frozen in the sky over unfinished towers. The most alive street in America suddenly felt dead. But the real pain was just getting started. Unemployment jumped from 3% to over 13%. Tens of thousands of workers lost their jobs in weeks, and economists warned that Las Vegas was next in line for a complete commercial collapse. The scariest part was the speed. This did not happen over years. It happened in months. Revenue that took a decade to build vanished in a single quarter. Some casinos offered rooms for under $30 a night just to get people through the door. It was pure survival mode from companies worth billions. But even that was not the worst part, because the companies that borrowed the most were now drowning in debt, and one empire worth billions was about to find out if it would even survive. While the Strip was bleeding, one company was bleeding faster than all the others. Las Vegas Sands, built by billionaire Sheldon Adelson, the empire behind the Venetian, the Palazzo, and massive casinos in Macau. In 2008, it was falling apart. The stock price collapsed 91% in a single year. Investors ran. Analysts on every financial network started saying one word out loud: bankruptcy. The company was drowning in $8.8 billion of debt. And in November 2008, Sands made a public admission that shocked the entire industry. They would probably not meet the loan requirements set by Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, and Lehman Brothers. Now here is the cruel twist. Lehman Brothers, one of the banks that helped create this debt, had already collapsed itself. The same crisis that killed the bank was now killing its client. But Adelson refused to go quietly. He found a lifeline where nobody expected: his own family. His wife's relatives provided funding from their Taiwanese business empire. That gave Sands a $1.15 billion credit line, just enough to breathe, just enough to survive until the markets found their balance again. Without that one family connection, the Venetian and Palazzo would have been sold in bankruptcy court for almost nothing. Sands made it through, barely, but it was not the only giant standing at the edge. The largest casino operator on the entire strip was now facing its own collapse. And it was happening while the most expensive building project in American history was still only half finished. Sands barely made it out alive, but the next giant was already falling. MGM Resorts International, the company behind Bellagio, MGM Grand, Mandalay Bay, Luxor, and New York, New York, some of the most iconic properties on the entire strip. And in the spring of 2009, it came within days of total bankruptcy. The problem was not just falling revenue. It was City Center. That $9.2 billion mega project was still under construction, still burning cash every single day, and generating absolutely zero income. MGM was trapped. Walking away from City Center would mean writing off billions already spent, the largest construction abandonment in American history. But continuing meant borrowing even more money during the worst credit crisis in 80 years. Both options led toward destruction. Think about it like this. Imagine your house is 80% built when you lose your job. Stopping means everything you already paid for is wasted. Continuing means going deeper into debt with no income coming in. Now multiply that decision by $9.2 billion. That is exactly what MGM's leadership faced. And what saved them was not a business move. It was a government one. The Federal Reserve dropped interest rates to nearly zero. Credit markets slowly started to unfreeze. And MGM was able to refinance its debt just before the clock ran out. Without that single policy decision made in Washington, MGM might not exist today. City Center finally opened in December 2009, not with celebration, but with a quiet sigh of relief. Two giants had now survived, but the third was walking straight into the worst business deal in American history. A $27.8 billion buyout that loaded Caesars with debt it could never repay. Now here is the chapter of this story that will make your blood boil. Because Caesars was not destroyed by bad luck, it was destroyed by a deal. In January 2008, two massive private equity firms made their move. Apollo Global Management and TPG Capital bought Caesars Entertainment for $27.8 billion, one of the largest leveraged buyouts in history. And they loaded the company with over $18 billion in pure debt. The people who made this deal collected their fees and walked away. The company they left behind had to somehow pay billions in interest every single year. Then the recession hit, revenue collapsed, and Caesars Palace, the most iconic name in all of Las Vegas, started drowning. Not because the tables were empty, but because of a spreadsheet written in New York. Think about it like this. Imagine someone buying your family business and immediately borrowing $18 billion against it. They take their money and leave. You are stuck paying debt you never asked for. And eventually, that debt crushes everything. That is exactly what happened to Caesars. For 7 straight years, the company could not invest in its own properties, could not compete with rivals like Wynn and MGM. Every dollar earned went straight to interest payments. Finally, in January 2015, Caesars filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, $18.4 billion in debt, one of the largest bankruptcies in American corporate history. The restructuring took until October 2017 to complete. $10 billion in debt was wiped out. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. After all that pain, Eldorado Resorts bought Caesars in 2020 for $17.3 billion, creating the largest gaming company in America. Caesars Palace still stands today. The firms that almost killed it moved on long ago. 3 giants had now faced destruction: Sands, MGM, Caesars. By every measure, the strip should have collapsed, but it did not. And the reason why reveals something about Las Vegas that most people completely miss. Sands almost died. MGM barely survived. Caesars went bankrupt. Yet the strip kept standing. How? Because of a secret weapon that had been building quietly for over a decade: diversification. By 2008, gambling was no longer the Strip's only income. Gaming revenue had dropped below 50% of total resort earnings. The other half came from conventions, entertainment, fine dining, luxury shopping, and nightclubs. The Strip had quietly transformed from a gambling town into a full entertainment destination. And that single shift saved everything. Think of it like a restaurant that used to survive on just one dish. Then the chef adds appetizers, desserts, drinks, and live music. Each one brings in different customers and different money. When the main dish stops selling, everything else keeps the doors open. That is exactly what the Strip did. Cirque du Soleil shows filled theaters every night. Celebrity chefs opened restaurants that became destinations on their own. Nightclubs like Hakkasan and XS made revenue that rivaled small casinos. And the convention business brought in millions of travelers who spent money on hotels and food, whether they gambled or not. But here is the part most people miss. The wealthiest customers never stopped coming. While middle-class visitors cut back, high rollers from Asia, Europe, and America kept spending. Casinos started focusing on fewer customers who spent more. VIP rooms, private tables, guests who could lose millions in a single weekend. That lesson would reshape the Strip's entire business model for years to come. By 2019, the Strip had fully recovered. Record revenues, rebuilt workforce, restored confidence. It looked like the worst was over. But then in March 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. And it made the 2008 crisis look like a bad weekend. This time, the Strip did not just lose customers, it lost everything. The Strip had survived the worst financial crisis in 80 years. It had taken a decade to fully recover, and by 2019, everything was finally back on track. Record revenues, full hotels, packed casinos. Then COVID-19 changed the world overnight. Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak mandated the closure of every non-essential business in the state in response to the rapidly spreading pandemic. And for the first time since President Kennedy's assassination in 1963, the Las Vegas Strip went completely dark. Every casino closed, every slot machine went silent, every restaurant, nightclub, and show venue locked its doors. The sidewalks that normally held 42 million visitors a year were completely empty. The neon signs kept glowing, but they lit up nothing except deserted streets. The images were haunting. Empty casino floors stretching into the distance under cold lights. The Bellagio fountains dancing for an audience of zero. The most alive street in America looking like a scene from the end of the world. And for the workers who depended on this street, it was not just scary, it was devastating. Dealers, servers, housekeepers, entertainers, their entire lives were tied to a street that had just stopped breathing. The numbers told the full story. The Strip stayed closed for 78 days due to COVID-19 restrictions. Gaming revenue fell 43.3% to just $3.6 billion. $2 billion in conventions were canceled. Nevada faced a projected $39 billion economic decline. And Cirque du Soleil filed for bankruptcy in June 2020. But this crisis was different from 2008. Back then, fewer people could afford to visit. This time, COVID-19 meant nobody was allowed to visit. Zero revenue, but the bills never stopped. Security, utilities, debt payments, all still due. Nobody knew when the doors would reopen or if they even would. Then on June 4th, 2020, as COVID-19 restrictions began to ease, the doors finally opened again. And what happened next surprised everyone. Masks were mandatory. Plexiglass barriers sat between dealers and players. Slot machines were spaced far apart. Buffets were gone. Nightclubs stayed closed. Nobody expected strong numbers. But then something happened that nobody predicted. People came. Not slowly, not carefully. They rushed back. After months of COVID-19 lockdowns and isolation, the Strip offered something no other place in America could. An escape, an open casino, a real meal, a room that was not your apartment. Vegas did not need to be perfect. It just needed to be open. By August 2020, visitor numbers jumped from 1.06 million to 1.5 million. Most drove in from California, Arizona, and Utah. And here is what shocked even the operators. Fewer customers walked through the doors, but each one spent more money than before. Revenue per visitor actually went up. The people who showed up were not budget tourists. They were wealthier visitors with months of savings and nowhere to spend it. The COVID-19 pandemic had accidentally filtered the Strip's customer base. Even the famous buffet disappeared forever, replaced by premium dining that made more money per plate. The crisis did not kill the Strip. It accidentally revealed a business model more profitable than anything before. And as vaccines arrived and COVID-19 restrictions lifted, the Strip did not just recover. It became something completely different. Through 2021, 2022, and 2023, the Strip did not just recover. It transformed. Vaccines rolled out, COVID-19 restrictions lifted, entertainment venues reopened, and a massive post-pandemic travel boom hit Las Vegas like a wave. By 2023, Strip gaming revenue reached $7.8 billion, 11% higher than pre-pandemic 2019. Hotel occupancy climbed back to 85%. But here is what made this recovery different from everyone before it. The Strip changed who it served. The era of $49 hotel rooms and free buffets was officially over. Operators discovered they could charge more to fewer people and make bigger profits. $300 a night for hotel rooms, $200 for concert tickets, $500 for a nightclub table, thousands at the gaming tables. Think about it like this. A nightclub used to let in 1,000 people at $20 each and make $20,000. Now it lets in 300 people at $100 each and makes $30,000. Less crowd, less staff, less chaos, more money. That became the entire Strip's new strategy. And then came the moment that proved this evolution was real. In November 2023, Formula One came to Las Vegas. A nighttime street race on the boulevard itself. Cars hitting 212 miles per hour past Caesar's Palace and the Bellagio fountains. 315,000 attendees in one weekend. An estimated $1.5 billion in economic impact. Bellagio packages hit $2,846 for 3 nights. The Strip had gone from a gambling town to a global entertainment stage. Record revenues, premium pricing, Formula One on the boulevard. The Strip had not just survived 2 collapses. It had become more profitable than ever before. But this transformation came with a cost. And one final question still remains. Did the Strip save itself forever? Or did it lose something it can never get back? It is now February 2026, 17 years after the darkest days of the 2008 crisis, 6 years after COVID-19 forced total shutdown. The Las Vegas Strip is making more money than ever before. MGM Caesars. Win. All profitable. The Strip survived financial collapse, a global pandemic, and a complete shift in how people spend. But that survival came with a price. The $49 hotel rooms are gone. The legendary buffets are gone. The feeling that anyone could come for a wild weekend on a budget is fading. The new Strip is more premium and more profitable, but also more exclusive. The middle-class tourists who built Vegas across decades are being priced out. Think about your favorite diner where anyone could walk in, eat well, and feel like they belonged. Now imagine it becomes an upscale restaurant with $50 appetizers. Revenue goes up, but the regulars cannot afford it anymore. That is the tension the Strip faces right now. More states are legalizing online gaming. Younger generations prefer experiences over slot machines. Conventions are returning slower because virtual meetings replaced many in-person events. And here is the deepest irony. The Strip survived 2 collapses by diversifying its customers. Now it is doing the opposite. Betting on fewer, richer visitors, higher profits today, but a narrower base that is more vulnerable tomorrow. Still, one thing has not changed in 80 years. The Strip sells escape. That product survived a recession and a pandemic because the human need for escape never disappears. It just gets more expensive. And now, one final truth answers the question this title asked from the very beginning. The Las Vegas Strip survived 2 total collapses, not because of gambling, not because of any billionaire. It survived because it sells escape. And escape becomes more valuable when the world falls apart. Recessions make people crave feeling rich. Pandemics make people crave feeling free. The Strip offers both. Tonight, the neon is glowing. The fountains are dancing. And millions are chasing that same feeling visitors have chased for decades. That feeling is not about Vegas. It is about us. 2 collapses, 2 comebacks, 80 years of survival. The Las Vegas Strip is the most resilient street on earth, not because of buildings or money, but because it sells what humans always need: escape. If this story changed how you see Vegas, hit subscribe. Now tell me in the comments, is the new premium Strip better, or is Vegas losing what made it special?